So Melanie, where did you find out about us?
Oh, Facebook.
Oh, good. And you, Lori?
At stage 32, there was a in one of the lounge discussions.
Oh, good. And you, Thomas, where did you find out about us?
I think I got a notice on Facebook. So.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of places I posted it on Facebook. I think there's a few more people coming. Then we'll have our introductions. Find out what everybody's working on. Yeah, it won't let me go back to see how many people. We don't have a lot signed up for tonight, so we'll have to see. Oh, getting somebody else. So Thomas, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. So I'm Tom Schultz. I live in Ontario. I just live north of Toronto. I live out on the inland ocean out here. I started pretty late in my career as an actor about 2 years ago. We do a lot of background work. We're waiting to be discovered. And I've been putting my mind to writing about some things. And so I saw the post and I said, I wonder what this is all about. So that's why I'm here tonight, to find out what this is all about.
So have you written any script or stories or anything?
I've written some monologues about some things, some recent things, but I haven't really, and I've used them for, not auditions, but you know, to practice and those type of things, but I haven't really written any story. I have a story in mind, but the more I learn about movie making, etc., the more I'm intrigued in how I can turn that into a script. So,
Great.
anyway, so that's where I'm at.
And you, Lori?
Yes, I've written a couple scripts. I finished one that I was commissioned to write in May. Leslie Bloom asked me to write her a screenplay for kids, so I did that, to feature. And me and my film partner just finished our TV pilot. We spent almost 2 years going through every single, all the relationships, all that stuff that's required, and just sent it off to ISA Fellowship for Fast Track. And now I'm just finishing. I'm in the middle of writing my feature screenplay. So,
And where are you located?
Portland, Oregon.
And you, Melanie?
I currently live in downtown Toronto. So yeah, I direct and write feature films and short films. Most of my subject matter in my scripts is science fiction, which I am trying to get off that a little bit and go more into children's as well. So we'll see how that goes.
Great. So I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, which is south of you, Melanie, and I've written, directed, and produced 3 feature films that were on Netflix, 2 creature features and a vampire.
Oh, nice.
One that, and the vampire dentist, about a 24-hour dental office, humans during the day and vampires at night. So I'm turning the script into a novel. That's what I'm doing with all of my scripts right now. And I'm on the 4th draft of a Hallmark Christmas mystery script. And
Wow.
that's one of the things I wanted to ask any of the scriptwriters. How many edits do you go through before you consider it done? And what kind of things do you look for in your edits?
Well, there's one screenplay that I wrote. It's called The Journalist, and it took me 4 years to write it. So there's been a lot of editing because I started off as a web series and then I got advice and I looked over it again, and it's a feature. It's not a web series. So it took me some time just transferring it into that format and figuring out what I was missing with the characters. If that makes sense.
And what about you, Lori?
Well, it takes me a long time to rewrite something, especially if it's high concepts. For Leslie's, I started hers in 2016. The first year was just developing the story and then trying to figure out how all these subjects could work together and be a great story. And all, so it took me a really long time. But I've been taking the ISA craft course, and it's like this immersion program that breaks down how to do outlines and structure, log lines, and all that, and that's really helped me. So I can get the first draft as good as I can get it before I do all the rewrites. Which rewrites take forever, but that's to me, once I get the story down, I feel better with the rewrites.
So with that course, do you hand it in at a certain time and they critique it?
I think they did that before the coronavirus shutdowns, but they don't do that anymore. So it's basically it's on the honor system. So you have to. I'm on week 7 of it, which is pretty much just all the log lines and sequences and synopses that you did based on the log lines. You hammer those out into the script. So I'm in the middle of that. So basically, they don't really say you have to hand it in. I'm sure if I wanted to, I could, but right now I don't feel confident enough to do that.
So Tom, when you come up with an idea for a script, one good thing that you should do is keep a running timeline of when you did all these things, because then when you go on to your second script, then you'll know how long these things take. And like I make up a file for each different thing within the script, like a file about characters, a file about locations, like the Christmas script that I'm working on. Hallmark wants a lot of Christmas activities, so I wrote down all the different kinds of Christmas activities there were, and then I would check off what I placed it in my script. And ink tip, if you want to write that down, ink.com, you can post your short scripts there for free. So if you go on to their main website, I can't remember which drop-down menu it is, but you can put your script that you've got it for sale and what genre it is, and you have your log line, which is up to 45 words. And also what I like to put down in any of those short things, like if it's only 2 or 3 locations or 2 or 3 actors in it, because another thing, Inktip has a weekly newsletter that you can. It costs I think $40 US for 3 months to get it, and it tells you about all the various producers and what kind of scripts that they're looking for. And I know one genre that's very popular, especially if you can write the script in 2 or 3 locations, and again 2 or 3 characters, is horror. They can't get enough of horror scripts.
Well, Well, I got to tell you, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yep.
So we talk about Hallmark, and we live north of Toronto. They do a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies here. So
No.
my wife Marie and I are known as the oldest teenage couple in Hallmark movies. So so I can relate to Hallmark movies.
So what,
It's kind of funny. It's funny because somebody on the weekend just sent us a clip of an advertisement that they're using on When Hope Calls, which kind of features us, and so we're Hallmark characters, as it were, of the older generation. But this is quite intriguing in terms of script. I was involved in a short film that was written by actually an acting coach of mine, and it featured a fairly established actor, and it was a short film, and it was really timely in the sense it dealt with COVID, it dealt with, Black Lives Matter. The whole thing was in there. It's 11-minute film, and I guess that got me a little bit intrigued in terms of, that's interesting. And actually, the storyline wasn't the same as my monologue, but I had a monologue that I wrote between myself and my grandson, dealing exactly with what's happening in the world. So I'm quite intrigued to see what people are looking for, and my mind's always going. So it'll be quite intriguing to find out what the opportunities are. Anyway, so.
and the same thing goes for drama. They're always looking for drama. Again, limited locations and limited characters. And one gentleman on Facebook, I think it was Into the Script, he was given an assignment to write a car movie, but he had to do most of the scenes outdoors because of COVID. So they didn't want interiors. And so he was
Right.
asking the other people in the Facebook group, what kind of outdoor locations could he have, where people could interact with each other. So I gave him the idea of, like an outdoor machinery rental place, like bulldozers and things
Right.
like that. He was saying like garden centers and.
Mhm.
Because,
Is the city of Toronto and Hamilton issuing permits yet for filming? Does anybody know at what stage we're at?
I looked on a website about what filming's going on, but I haven't seen any permits being issued yet. But I know one of the gentlemen who used to come to these Zoom meetings, he's a writer and director out of Vancouver, and he's directing a Hallmark film.
Oh, nice.
In Vancouver. It's A Christmas Tree Grows in Brooklyn. That's the name of his movie. So I know they've been, but I haven't heard of any but I shouldn't say that, because in the Hamilton Spectator, it said that Murdoch Mysteries was filming in Gage Park in Hamilton on Wednesday.
They are, yeah, they are, because they're looking for backgrounders. I saw a notice today, and we're shooting north of Toronto as well. And I think we're going to find a lot of the productions trying to get out of Toronto, where they can isolate the crew and isolate the group and do a lot of work in a more protective environment. So there's a couple of shots that are taking place in Sudbury already, which is about 3 hours north of Toronto. So yeah, so there's stuff happening. My son is key rigging grip on big feature films, and I think he's talking about starting something by the end of this week. Now they do a lot of preparation before they get to the shoot, of course, but they must have got a permit of some sort. So.
Okay.
And what city are you in, Tom?
I'm halfway up between Toronto and Sudbury in a city called Parry Sound.
Oh, Parry Sound.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm right on I'll show you, I'm on the ocean out here. You can see it.
The ocean.
Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I live. Actually, when I talked about this movie we did, it was a Zoom film, except that the governor of New York, I think that's who I was sitting out here at his resort, I guess, as it were. So the only outside shot in that whole film is actually here on my property. But it added, birds, and it added life to the whole feature. And I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. So it was good. That was to put some life to it, even though we're in a Zoom situation where everybody's operating from, from the screen, from inside, etc. We were able to add real life to the scene, boats and all. So.
Because I know, Melanie, you were asking about what our agents and that looking for. And do you get, are you on the email list for screenwriting staffing?
No, I'm not. No.
You should get on there.
Screenwriting staffing?
Screenwritingstaffing.com.
I put myself more in the director's chair. I don't really write for others. I write for myself because I have to create my own work. So for me, I don't know if I would write for somebody else. So I don't know if that's the right place I should be or not.
Yeah, because I don't know what, but in any of the Facebook groups, there's groups that are like for filmmakers, and there's a Toronto one. There's two different Toronto ones, and Ontario Film. So I guess, so you would be looking for scripts to direct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'll be
then,
looking for a director. I'll be looking when I get to. It's called Who's My Daddy? So it's quite the story.
so that story's been written?
It's right here.
Oh,
It's a personal, what would you call it? Biography, as it were. So I think that'll be my outgoing feature film.
so
I was
Lori,
debating on, oh, sorry. Continue.
I was gonna say, Lori, that one script that you wrote, is it in production for that woman?
No, we're not allowed to. I'm in the States and we're on lockdown, so I don't think there's any permits in the state of Oregon, and that's where she would film. So, and I think she wants another writer to go to finalize it. We didn't end on the greatest terms, so I actually had to send her a boundary setting letter. So I don't know what she's doing with it. So.
So again, a novice question. When you write a script like that, are there some parameters around how much they're worth, or how I really am a novice, so I'm just trying to get my mind around the kind of things that I should be anticipating. Now, I'm not looking to get rich on it, but I'm looking to find out, is it something that's financed by somebody, or is it something that you write and then submit and then somebody picks it up?
If it's a short script, I would say I wouldn't take less than $100 a page for it.
Okay.
But if you go with Writers Guild of America West, if you go on their website, they have their agreement, and it's about $60,000 for a completed script. That's the minimum. And then it goes up from there, depending if there's rewrites or if they want a treatment and things like that. So the minimum is about $60,000, and of course that's US. And you can also go on to the Canadian Writers Guild, and but I always like to think of the American, right? 60,000 US.
Well, thanks so
Sounds
much
pretty
for the
good.
information. I'm gonna listen in now because I hear, I can see some pretty good expertise. So, but thank you for the background information.
So Melanie, where were you trying to get some directing jobs?
Currently, I kind of had a hiatus because of life, and I decided I needed to create my own work because there's kind of a gap in me directing. When the last thing I directed of anything that I would show people is 2011. So I've been writing, and I've written 4 scripts, and I'm now pitching, and I'm going back to directing shorts, trying to get back into it, the game on that side, if that makes sense.
So you're going to be looking for short scripts to
Yeah.
direct?
Yes. I have a few of my own, but I love to do someone else's. It's great. I mean, I can create my own work, but I've always wanted to do someone else's. Yeah.
And what kind of genre are you looking for?
Sci-fi is my passion, but I would almost welcome any genre, except I don't know how I'd feel about comedy. You never know, but it could be great. I would welcome anything at this point. Any
And
genre.
what kind of length are you looking for?
With a short script, I was looking for, because of what's available to me right now, approximately 5 minutes.
Okay.
In that ratio, like even 3 to 5 minutes. I was saying to people when I went to, there was a few independent meetups that were still kind of happening in Toronto, and I was going, and I kind of assembled a little bit of a crew together just to get people out there. So we're going to see what we have, what our resources are, what locations are available to us, and what talent pool we can actually pull, people who want to work or just come on board right now.
Yes, so Tom, it's about a minute per page
Okay.
for the script.
Yeah, and it takes 4 hours to make it. I know that.
Per minute. 4 hours per minute? You
Oh,
never
yeah.
know.
I've done the calculations. I've been on a lot of sets. Anyway, I'm learning. This is our recent profession, but I think we've been on lots of sets and lots of this, and just, we're learning, but it's quite intriguing, and it's so different for what we've been doing before. Marie was a teacher, I was an executive, and it's just completely different. It helps with the old mind, right? You got thinking, new ideas, etc. So it's good. It's quite intriguing, anyways.
But Melanie, you should check out that inktip.com for the short scripts.
I marked it down. I was like, Inktip. I was like, got the handwriting happening. I was just thinking, I used to be a production assistant out in Vancouver in Alberta. And I remember being on a film set in the summertime as a PA. It was a Hallmark movie called Christmas Returns to Cannon. It was this Billy Ray Cyrus, I don't know what was happening. But all I remember was being a PA and looking off the balcony of just an apartment complex. And there was 200 people dressed up in Santa Claus outfits. I was just like, what is happening in this movie? It was great. It was fun. It was actually a fun set, but it was really random. And the people were like, what's happening? It was like July.
Oh yeah, July, August.
They were shooting
35 degrees. Yeah, Christmas movies. We know about those with the big boots on and everything. So
yeah.
I've been watching. I've been watching a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies, and they have so much wet in the street because, of course, it's probably not really winter time there, and they probably got all this fake snow all over the place. But they do have some, it seems like, stock shots of forests with all this snow cover on.
Well, it almost feels like there's snow in North Bay 12 months a year. because we're doing so many Christmas movies there that there's just continuously in snow. Oh, that's
And when the
amazing.
real snow happens, nobody wants to shoot. Like in the real dead of the cold.
Well, what you find is that you're working on a set and it's 35 degrees outside. And then as you get into the evening, right, even though it's not really that cold, you actually start to shiver because as the sun sets, and it may still be 20, it's just such a shift in temperature that you then put on the winter coats, even though it's summertime. So it's a little hard. But I saw a note yesterday or today that said that they're limiting backgrounders to 10 for a movie. I don't know how that's going to work. I had a chance to work on Mrs. America where we were working with 300 backgrounders, you know. So I don't know how that's going to work. That'll be it's such a rewrite. I know I had to sell my image to those people. They took a 3-dimensional image of me, and I guess they get a chance to use that as often as they want to put me into an auditorium or a stadium, etc. But I think we're going to see a lot of technology now that's going to replace humans, certainly on a larger scale. So anyway, I guess that's going to affect the script writing too, right? Because when I look at the scenes, when I look at the way that things are constructed, you know, backgrounders 30, 40 in a Christmas movie is, as it was mentioned earlier, is quite common. Now you're going to zero that down and you're going to be doing a winter fair type of event or walking on the street or something like that. And that's going to look a little empty, as it were. So there'll be a lot of rewriting that has to get done. Yeah.
I just think of my scripts as well because I have a lot of like all my scripts have some something to do with the police, and I'm just thinking of like scenes with police raids or you know like with emergency task force and stuff. And how am I going to limit that? Like if I can for the scene, because it's just it's a lot to think about. Like
yeah. Well, given the times, I can see it. I can see how. You know, people that are marketing these things are looking at it and say, wait a minute, no, this is not what we want to feature now. We got to keep away from that. So there's a whole rethinking in terms of all sorts of dialogue and discussions and the way that people are commenting on things. And
I feel, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say for what I write and everything, I feel like besides like police raid scenes and whatnot, I feel like I've just with the script that I just completed a few months ago, I feel like I've tried my best to keep it to less than 3 actors on the screen at the same time. Like there's no, but there are scenes like that take place in like, you know, like a pub or restaurants or stuff like that where it's populated, but there's a lot of them that are by themselves. So I'm just thinking about ways, I mean, a restaurant doesn't have to be crowded with billions of people. I'm just thinking of ways of how to address the scene and the shots, I guess.
I was actually thinking in terms of the topic itself, because it's so, like we're looking at the time in terms of sensitivity. You know, we've had some discussion more on a philosophy basis of movie making with some of the people I've been involved in, and you can see a real shift in terms of being careful about all the stuff that's highlighted right now. I mean, anytime somebody, you know, brings in a person of color or something, everybody's walking on eggshells, right? And they should be anyway. I think they should be more sensitive to it anyway. But now I see it starting to get reflected in terms of how people are talking and thinking, etc. So that's from the marketing side. Who knows, in 6 months or 12 months from now, all this is, you know, washed over for a couple of years and then it starts up again. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean in the context of, you know, what's the news today, right? The news cycle. It almost is intriguing.
But with a Hallmark Christmas movie for an outdoor scene, if they had 10 people walking in a circle, and then at the end of the circle, they put on different clothes and hats, and then
change the coats
over again. They kept changing their coats and hats.
I've done that 3-4 times in a day where we've changed. And, you know, moved things around, looked a little bit different. Yeah, no, we've done that lots of times. So it's intriguing.
So Laurie, that web series that you're working on with a partner, what genre is it?
It's not a web series, it's a TV series.
Oh, TV series. Oh, it used to be.
We actually did start off with a web series, but that didn't go very well. So, and then had focus groups. So. The genre, it is drama, but it's plus comedy. So it's one protagonist and brother and two other people. So and then a villain. So there is a lot of people in it, but most of it is at the same locations.
So is it location specific or can be filmed anywhere?
Anywhere, yeah. As long as there's a residential area and at least one apartment, or that could be any room that you can make into an apartment. So, and if there's a park nearby, that'd be cool.
Yeah, those moves from set to set are expensive, according to my son, who is a rigger type of thing and sets these things up. He says, "Dad, boy, when we move those trucks, holy moly," adds to the cost. So
Yes, if they can redress one room and just film it from a different angle to make it look like some other kind of room, or they could do an apartment, could be gungy from one angle and then high end from the other angle, and just change the furniture and the paintings and that sort of thing, and yeah, because moving sets is very expensive, and that's why they like one or two location shoots where they can stay for an extended length of time.
So to what extent do writers take that into consideration? Like if I'm sitting down and I'm the world is my palette, as it were. How soon, from a scriptwriter perspective, do you say to yourself, "Well, wait a minute, how do I bring this together? Because when you're writing, you must be thinking marketing, you must be thinking the implications of all these things, right? Or do you, as a writer, just let it go, and then it comes back? Okay, now this was going to be 10 million episodes for Mrs. America or something. Let's cut it down to 5 million or something, right? Like, where does that kick in from a scriptwriter's perspective?
Sorry.
You can go. No, you can go.
I think if you want to sell it to somebody else, you have to keep that in mind right from the beginning, because they're going to be thinking about how much it's going to cost them. So, on what the return on investment is going to be and all the business and marketing end of it. So, yeah. I would say if you want to sell it to somebody, that's something you need to think about is before you even start writing. If you're just writing for yourself and you're going to make it yourself, produce it yourself, you probably have a little bit more leeway in that. Or if you know somebody who is an investor or somebody that can connect you to somebody and get you a discount, that could be, or you do crowdsourcing and you have the money already in hand, then you can be more relaxed on that and have your palette painted.
And if you're an independent filmmaker and you know a lot of people in your community and ask for a lot of favors, like I did with my 3 movies, like I had 100 cast and crew in the first 2 movies and 120 in the third, because we had about 20 sailing boats in Burlington Bay, because we had around the bay race while the shark was attacking. And I had to spend from April to October, our cameraman got permission to be on the committee boat and film twice a week the boat races, as long as I guaranteed that I'd be on every race committee boat and took the what do you call it? You know, like who crossed the line at what time. I was the timekeeper.
You were the judge. You were the judge timekeeper.
Oh, nice.
The timekeeper. So at the end, I got a trophy for the, you know, the best volunteer from one yacht club, and this volunteer flag from the other one, because I spent my whole summer evenings at on the water.
Excellent. Yeah. Well.
That's a good barter system.
Yeah.
But then when the editor had to make the put the movie together, he had to erase all of the boat numbers, because you can't have any of the boat numbers in the movie, because it's like license plates. You know, you can find who owns the boat in that, which you don't want people to know. So that had to all be erased.
The next time you want to film sharks or whatever, we took the weekend off and we went up to a place called Lion's Head, which is on Georgian Bay. And I've been kayaking up down there for years, but I really hadn't been to the town. I'm in the harbor and you can look down 30, 40 feet. That's how clear the water is. And I'm thinking, boy, if I was filming on a nice day here, it could look like real sharks going by. So anyway, just a little aside. Lion's Head, keep it in mind.
But in 2003, and 2004, when I did my research, bull sharks were seen in the Great Lakes. And
we have whales. We have whales right here. My place is called Whaleback Point.
No, but sharks in the Great Lakes,
Yeah.
and they're a lot in Lake Superior, where it's cold. They like it cold and deep. They're not just at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. They've come into the Great Lakes. So I'll never go into the water again after doing 2 water movies. What I know. Because even in my first one, people were getting bit in the water because of things in the water.
You're talking Hamilton though, right?
Yes.
Well, that's a whole different story. You got to come up our way. I'll bring you up here. We'll show you some clear water. We'll show you the whales. Anyway, it's good.
Well, I'm even afraid of swimming pools and bathtubs. My mind is too creative. But you were saying about scripts. I'm working on 2 horror scripts. I have to let them percolate some more in my mind. I've written some pages, but I still have to come up with some more ideas, and they're both one location and just a couple of characters. But you have to.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna ask?
No, I was gonna make a suggestion, but go ahead.
Because that's a lot of talking when you only have, you know, like how to get more action and not just all dialogue to give it more interest.
So sometimes when I look for input, I talk to my grandchildren, and they range from 6 to 15 now. But if you want script, if you want ideas, if you want somebody to kind of, you know, help you with the story, I find if I give them a little bit and I say, okay, so, you know, what happened to the cat after that, right? And then all of a sudden stuff that I could never think of, right? And these kids have come up with horror stories and things that are just amazing. So if you're looking for input, find an 11, 12-year-old and they'll add to your script like crazy, right? Anyway.
So Melanie, did you say you finished your scripts, or are you gonna be working on a new one?
I am in the process of just like I've written the outline and I put it away for a while just to feel if I really wanted to do the script. But it's a science fiction and it's more of a bigger budget. So it's a feature. I put it away, and then during COVID, I've been taking it out, and I've been writing like large sections at a time with this script. This has been a different writing process. I find this one's just coming alive fast. My other ones take time to develop, but I feel like the character's already there. Like everything's been in my brain for so long that the characters are already like finessed enough to come to life. I feel like with the other ones, they've taken so much time. Like just I was developing as I was writing, but this one it's like they already exist. So that's the best way I can look at it.
So what about you, Laurie? You thinking of your next script?
I'm still writing my feature, so I'm like, I'm on the 6th log line thing. So if I think about too many projects all at the same time, I'm not going to get to any of them because I would procrastinate on that. So we just finished our pilot like about a couple of days ago, so I want to just settle down a little bit before I move on to the second project. Yeah. So the feature, though, I'm working on it every single day, and I'm also submitting to like Roadmap writers. They do every month. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's kind of okay. So every month, if you are a screenwriter that's diverse, from a diverse background, you can submit to this. I guess it's a competition, and if you get accepted, you get phone calls from people that in the industry to help you to mentor you. So I've been doing things like that, and while I'm writing the screenplay, and also doing as many webinars and meetings as I can to branch out from my little bubble.
And what's the genre of that screenplay?
It's supernatural and drama. So, yeah.
Because I'm doing research on a sci-fi football script. So I really don't know that much about football. So I'm reading Football for Dummies, and then I've watched 2 DVDs so far, and I'm reading a teen book on it. So I have the beats already down and the log line for it, but I need to know more about football, but it's not really about the football. It's about the coaches and the relationship. But I have to learn more about what they do and what the players do and how the players can impact on the relationship of the 2 coaches. So it's been interesting, and then I try to ask my husband questions, and of course he thinks I'm really funny because I really don't know what I'm talking about, right? Like, well, how many players are there on the field, and like and about the football itself, and because of course reading this book, Football for Dummies, of course I would never know any of some of these facts about them deflating the football to make it a different kind of.
It was big news a couple of years ago, yeah.
That they deflated it and so that they could use it in a different way that was not.
There was a big controversy in the Super Bowl, right? Maybe 2 Super Bowls ago, yeah. It was big, huge. I knew it, I never knew anything about that either. It's true.
And then how the field is set up and all this, and it was interesting because the movie that I watched last night, it's about high school football, and they were playing in extreme heat, and the opposing team were like at least 50 pounds heavier than each of the players, but and it was based on a true story that they did win over them because they were able to get around their might by the way they played. So it's stuff like that I need to know, like, not just the mechanics and some of those lines that they use.
Yeah,
So
I
you're like,
felt that way when I started writing police procedural. My knowledge of police procedural is all American. So when I started writing, and I was like, I'm going to set it in Canada. You know, I'm going to set it in Vancouver. I'm going to set it in Toronto. I had to go and review everything I was writing, like, because it was like looking like Law and Order. Like I was like, no, this is they don't do it this way. They don't do it this way. So I really had to go and do my research, like on SWAT teams and how they in the cities, different, the lingo they use, the way they talk, the issues around it, just everything.
Well, especially if you're planning to have it US based, right?
Well, this one, mine are well, like the ones I've written, I have Canadian based. I've based it in Canada.
Now, I know the Toronto Police Department has a Citizens Police Academy. And last
Really?
week, you'll have to check it out, because last year when I went to BoucherCon in Dallas, at one of the sessions, they talked about Citizens Police Academy. And when I came back to Hamilton, I checked with our Hamilton police, and they said they have a course in October. So I just left a message to the lady I spoke to last year, and she hasn't got back to me to find out if they'll have the police academy, this October, or has it been, delayed because of COVID. But
Well,
that's
when I was
something
out, sorry?
but that's something to think about in Toronto, to see if about their Citizens Police Academy.
I was going to say, when I was living out in Vancouver, I had 2 police officers do drive-alongs with me a few times, and I picked their brains that way. And so I felt fortunate about that, because I learned a lot about the way Vancouver's structured, because the first script I wrote, feature, is based in Vancouver. So I really wanted to know everything. And I was literally like, I'm going to shoot on this street, kind of like when you're first writing that first draft, you're getting the feel of everything. So I like to write in the city that I'm writing for, kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Kind of
Well,
writing on location.
Well, especially since you're a director, writer, you would be looking, through those eyes at the
Yeah.
very locations, as if you would be directing it.
Well, I was introduced at the time, and especially, oh my gosh, when I was living in Vancouver like 2010 to 2013, I was introduced to Judith Weston's books on acting director relationships. That was like the beginning of being introduced to a lot of different different schools of thought. So I was just adding it into my writing, and I was just like actor's perspective, directing perspective, and I still say that is my favorite script that I wrote so far. So it's just a big budget. So I have to build, the way I always say, I have to build my career a little bit more.
And what was that woman's name again? You said the book she wrote?
Judith Weston, and the exact title, she has 2 books out. Trying to remember the names off by heart. Give me one sec, I have the internet here. I know there's one called The Directing Acting, it's like a directing actors relationship, but I will get the exact name right now. Oh, there's one just called Directing Actors. It's the first one, and the second one is the film director's intuition. And I've been finding they have been the greatest books I've ever learned from. I did film school. I did like 2 BAs and everything, and I got more from those books than I ever did going to any type of communication, motion picture art, film school. Like, I got so much from those books.
They're on my reading list now.
Yeah, and I know she has videos on YouTube as well. You can check her up. I know there's one. I'm just seeing a new one pop up here through Indie Film Hustle, and it's saying the art of directing actors with Judith Weston. It's just popping up as soon as I put anything into YouTube. I'm getting so much resources. I wish YouTube was around when I was a teenager. Because I would have used it. All the resources that are available now.
Well,
I
we
could
had black
put
and white
in how to
television.
like bake something, and I'll get it. I'll get anything. You get anything. Huh?
I said we had black and white television.
Yeah, I remember that at my grandfather's house. It was yeah.
Well,
He never wanted to get rid of his black and white TV. He had it for a very long time.
and he's going to come back in fashion.
Probably. He used to have this thing that used to go over the black and white TV that used to make it color. I don't know. It's like a screen. And I was like, why aren't you getting a new TV? It's like the 90s. Like, what's going on here? Yep. That was the Maritimes.
That's what I'm glad so many conventions, the online conventions and that are recording all of their sessions so you can go and watch it at a later time, because this weekend they had When Worlds Collide. That was a sci-fi. And they put all of their stuff on YouTube. So you should check that out. When Worlds Collide.
When Worlds
And
Collide.
then they said they've already got 600 people signed up for next year's conference. And it'll be out west someplace. I don't know where, if it was in Calgary, if it was supposed to be in Calgary, because I know it was 2 hours ahead of time than here.
Okay.
When I was watching it on the weekend. And for sci-fi, it's only $16 to join is Sci-Fi Canada, and they have all kinds of.
Is that a monthly or a weekly or just a random?
Well, it's an association, and they're like, I get lots of emails from them all day long. And tomorrow night they're going to have a Zoom meeting, and
nice.
I'll send you the information, because the gentleman, he has 2 different times, one for out west and then one for Eastern time. And so anybody in the sci-fi area interests, they talk about all that kind of stuff. And next Monday, because I have it on the 4th Monday of the month, is I have a Zoom meeting for horror writers and filmmakers.
Nice.
Because I've made the horror films.
Okay.
So that'll be advertised for anybody in the horror area. So we get
my script kind of goes into the horror realm, like the psychological horror. So I'm actually looking at it going, what am I going to pitch this like? Because there's a lot of different elements to it. I consider it sci-fi police procedural, but there's a lot of horror elements to it. If that, like, very X-File. It's the best way. It's like you can tell I've been influenced by the X-Files on that one.
But I've never heard that the X-Files were considered horror, even though they had horrific things happen.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of like, how do I go about this? Because it is pretty, there's elements, and I'm just trying to figure out how to pitch it at this point as well.
And sci-fi seems to be very hot right now. There seems to be a lot of stuff going on in sci-fi, and the one that is next to nothing, and one gentleman who had been on a couple of the other Zoom meetings, he had been writing a Western, and there's next to nothing about Westerns.
Yeah, that's a genre that's like Heartland, and a couple of Kevin Costner films that are like you find on Netflix, and that's all I can think of. Like,
Because the sci-fi Western that I really liked was that Cowboys and Aliens.
oh
You know,
yeah,
the combination. there.
Spielberg one.
No, he didn't do that one.
He didn't do that one.
No,
No?
I couldn't believe it when I looked it up. It was John Favreau.
Oh, okay.
He directed it. Because I know him more as an actor than as a director, so I couldn't believe it when he directed it.
I'm just curious now. I'm like, dude, I got like a million computers up.
So Tom, you said that the script that you're going to write is more autobiographical.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not anywhere near it. I guess it's a bit of a life story, but when you look at it, it's kind of intriguing, and there's still a lot of research to be done, right? There's still work to be done in terms of finding out about things, etc. So I've got to figure out how to way to do that. It's not expensive to do that, but it'll require some investigation, etc. So and it'll unturn some rocks that people don't really want to unturn. So I'm sure, but some of the main characters are dead now, so I feel a bit more comfortable in unearthing things, and you know, I may have to put in, it may be a fictional thing based on a story, making up some things that I won't get at. But anyway, that's a longer term project. But I'm listening in and I'm thinking about other things that you guys are talking about. Sci-fi, connecting it with things, right? Connecting it with, I don't know, I can see a sci-fi involving animals and things that may be more at you know, the teen kid level type of thing. So anyway, just listening in, it's got my head rolling here. So, but probably maybe write something on a short one that's sort of based on stuff that's happening, interconnecting my era with grandchildren and younger kids, and you know how smart we are as old people or older people, or we're supposed to be, and then you got kids asking questions that are so deep, so hard, so I'll give you an example. So I'm having a conversation with my grandson in this monologue, and part of it we have the pleasure of living in the Dominican in the wintertime. And so I spend a lot of time on the phone with him or on the Zoom or whatever. And we're talking about a situation about how things are at school, and etc. This is pre-COVID, it's just starting, you know. We're talking about environmental issues, and I do a project down there where I clean beaches and stuff like that. And so that was pretty interesting. And that led to his teacher asking him, or asking the class to ask the parents or the grandparents to identify one thing that they've done in their lifetime to preserve the world for the future generations. And you kind of stop and think, well, wait a minute, I live in two places, I got two cars, I got this, I got that. And I kind of, in the moment you come up short, you know? And so, but it's intriguing where I'm having a conversation with my grandson, and he says, well, you know, how come we're not fixing things here? We're spending money going to Mars. And I say, well, you know, maybe they're trying to figure something out or whatever. And you know what he says? He says, maybe what they're trying to figure out is how to live on Earth when we got nothing left but a little bit of water, you know? What? Like, so then I'm listening to children who are bombarded with all the stuff that's going on, and they're trying to make sense out of it, right? In their own way, trying to, like, and we think that, and they're absorbing all this stuff, right? We think it's just going to go by and but they're listening to the same news we are. They're listening to the same, you know, maybe not as intense, but it subconsciously it's absorbed, right? And then they kind of, when they, you know, lie down at night and sort of think about their future, holy shit, you know, like, so that got me intrigued in writing some things that relate to how we see the world, you know, because we've had this and we've had that and everything else. And then what do we got left over for them? And what are they thinking of how we handle things for them, right? So anyway, that's where I said earlier about you talk to teenagers or children or somebody when you're stuck, and holy moly, the stuff that comes out of them, because they're not bound by any signs. They're not bound by any, you know, you got to think this way or that way or whatever. They can just say it, and it might sound silly in the moment, but it's not really, because, you know, given the information that they have, they're able to put it together and come up with something that's pretty deep, right? So anyway, that's an area that I really like to explore, is that discussion with younger people, how they see the world, how they interpret things, and what they really, I mean, they all love us and everything else, but if they sat back and said to themselves, well, wait a minute, so what did these people before us do for our benefit? You know what I mean? And maybe that'll help them think about what they can do. But anyway, I go on a little bit. So that's an area that's I'm intrigued about right now, is to explore that a little bit more. So
Great.
yeah, it's scary to talk to children, or it can be anyway. So good.
Well, any parting words? Or we talked ourselves out for tonight?
I would just like to say that in another group, if you're looking for to learn scientific facts for your scripts or anything technology-wise, there's a group of scientists and people that work in technology that offer free advice. If you can interview them and put that information in your scripts. And I will get the link as soon as I remember what it is. But it's I have it on my browser, and I will send a link to this to you.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
I found it really helpful. So, yeah. So that's my parting. And I also direct. I forgot to mention that, but I also direct short movies. So. Yeah.
And I'm not doing any more directing or producing. I'm just concentrating on the script writing and then turning any of my existing scripts into novels. That's really a whole different mindset.
Yeah, I was questioning about like literary agents and all that. How does one go about that? Because I have friends that are like, they're novel writers, and they're always asking me questions about, I'm like, that's not my field, but I am interested in learning more.
Again, you know, like there's all different places where you can find agents, and like one of my children's TV pilots, I turned into a book, and I think I've gotten 100 rejections so far from agents and publishers. So I'll have to, and I belong to 2 children's writing associations, so I'll have to go back because I have given it to my writing groups to critique it, and go back to all the comments, do all the changes from all the comments, and then go seek somebody, because there are mentors within these writing associations that can look at your story and, you know, give you advice. It's, you know, like if you've worked it as much as you can, like a script, you know, and nothing's happening with it, then you have to give it to somebody else who's got more experience with it, so they can give you a different perspective and tell you what's right and wrong. And that's also the good thing about giving it to contests, if you've also paid for the feedback, because they'll tell you, you know, what's right and wrong with it. And some people have said, well, I don't want to pay somebody. I'll wait until a producer looks at it and then work through them with their comments. But that might be a while before it's good enough for a producer to pick it up, or, you know, a director. So you have to keep, you know, like I try to read whatever I can in script writing and take lots of different courses on it. And that's what I like about this Zoom, is that, you know, different people tell you about different courses that they've taken and that have helped them, and this and that. So like you have, like Melanie has given us this book, and then now Lori's going to give us this new website. So, you know,
So
that we
I
can
just have,
help each other.
so I have a question here. And again,
Yes.
I'm a complete novice, right? So you're writing a story. So I'm sure there are some technical things that you have to do, and you can get, you know, maybe learn more about those things. But the story, is it because somebody doesn't like the story, or how can they come along and what, say, no, the ending has to be this way or that way? Like, that's not your story, right? So I know I'm sounding a little naive here, but you're kind of writing for somebody that it becomes their story, so they want to produce it, or
Well, it
I'm
just
having.
depends. It just depends. Like I wrote this flash fiction, science fiction, fantasy story, and I had 28 rejections. And then I don't know if it's an anthology or whatever, they liked it, but they said you have to change this one part of it because we've seen too much of that in too many other stories, and we don't like that aspect of it. You got to change it around. So instead of the husband coming to visit his wife in the hospital, I had the sister coming because I had him as an abusive husband, and they didn't
Right.
like the abusive husband aspect of it. So I changed that. It didn't take much changing, and they accepted it, and I got paid, and it'll be published this fall.
Nice.
Okay,
So
okay.
so
I
you
see
have
what
to
you're getting at.
decide whether you're going to stick completely 100% to the story, or you will take the changes and have it published or produced. You have to make that decision. Like, is it only going to be a story for you, or is it going to be collaborative? Because somebody else sees it like it was, just say 75% good, but they didn't like this 25% for their magazine.
Yeah.
You know, and it
I
could
am,
also be,
I am naive, you know. I grew up in Tobermory, and we walked into this art store, and there's a whole bunch of nice, beautiful pictures. And I can't imagine walking up to the artist and saying, you know, I really like that tree over there. Now, if you could take it and put it on the other side of the bay, I'd buy the picture. You know, like I am really naive, right? So anyway, but I can see what you're getting at. Yeah.
but the thing is, if you wanted that for your living room and they were willing to do it to
I guess so. Yeah.
get you to purchase it, then, you know, and it wasn't a major design issue, then I can't see them, you know, not doing it.
I guess so. Yeah. Anyway,
All
I'm
I
like I.
when I
Go ahead.
Well,
Please.
as long as for me, I don't mind changing a character, changing the look, changing the gender, anything like that, as long as it doesn't affect the main story that's going on in this, you know, like the main concept, the main story. I don't mind if the actor doesn't end up being like I envisioned it, or some of the dialogue gets cut. But as soon as it starts like taking out the themes and like certain subtext that are really important to tell the story, then I'll say I'll fight this, keep it in. But
Okay.
if
All
it's
right.
something superficial, as well, it's something like just like a character with their job, and it doesn't really affect, you know, it could
Got it.
still keep the theme. Yeah, I'll change.
Oh, okay.
I don't hold things like, I'm not like so tight that nothing can change. You know, some people are, but
I'd like to add just a little bit. If you're going to pitch it to an executive, if you do finish a short script or a feature, and they say, I don't like this or that, what you need to do is have those answers ready in your head to defend what it is that you wrote so that it does become, so they don't change it.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that insight, guys. I really appreciate it. I was just, anyway, I was just thinking as an artist, you know, to what extent people, I guess people have opinions, right? And if they're going to pay for it, I guess they have some kind of entitlement to tell you to move that tree.
Well, my mistake my mistake with a lot of the things I've done when I was younger is that I let the first draft go to people. And the first draft is always crap. That's what I always say. My first draft of scripts were always terrible. I'm second language English, so it was a fight to actually write. Like I'm very visual. So yeah, I let this go into the wrong hands of the wrong kind of people to look over it. It wasn't my audience. It wasn't like a trained professional. It wasn't anybody with any. And I got discouraged for a very long time. But then I started to realize, well, wait a second, they're not important towards what I'm doing. It kind of just, you know, it all fell together and the scripts came alive and they were better. If that makes sense.
You can also do
Good.
table reads too in your community. There's always like a Facebook group that has a small, just get a bunch of actors together to read through the script so that you can hear if it's good or not, or if you want to change something.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
In Hamilton, I think at least for 5 years, I had table reads once a month at a gallery on James Street North. And I had a lot of actors come, and I said they could put it on their resume that they were doing table reads, because, you know, you have to put stuff on your resume as an actor. And, you know, here they're doing table reads and they're getting experience reading. So that's very good for them. So it works for both the writer and the actor. And then you get to hear it.
Have you done anything online, like table reads with Zoom or anything like that yet? Has anybody done any of that here?
Not on Zoom, no.
No, I don't know of anybody doing table reads on Zoom. Yeah, because everybody would have to get the script ahead of time. Because I used to come to Toronto for a meetup in the East End once a month, or was it every couple
Was
of
it
weeks?
We Make Movies? Was it We Make Movies? Because there was a couple of them that used to exist. I don't know. They just kind of disappeared.
It was at this gentleman's house and mainly in his backyard that we'd be around this fire pit. And then when it got cold and dark, then we'd come into his living room, and we'd, you know, there'd be, I know, 10 or 15 of us reading various scripts, and you got to, you know, connect with various people in Toronto. But who knows when that's going to start up again. All those meetups.
You'll see everybody at Lakeshore in the park, because nobody's allowed to have a specific group amount of people together in one place. So they'll be like, you can have like 100 people together, I guess, outdoors now in Toronto.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, in the parks and whatnot. You just can't have alcohol. So if you want to, we can't. But so yeah, it's I know because there's an independent meetup that happens through Film Mercenary, and they just have like an indie film meetup. They had one last month that was at Lakeshore, and it was wide open, and everybody was just in like little groups, and everybody was kind of social distancing in a circle, and people had their masks on, and some people didn't, but everybody was like far enough that it was okay. And you know, I actually met some people there for the first time, so I actually found it very. People are eager, even students are eager to get out and do stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's see who's happy, you know, who's eager.
So would you would present your script, and then people would be taking on the roles and acting them out, or at least reading them out? Is that? Is that what you were talking about when you say like a table read like that?
Yeah, they just read, the actors just read their parts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was watching that when we were producing Northern Rescue here in Perry Sound a couple of years ago. So I think they were writing it as they were producing it, so they were having their actors in, working their way through the script, and then the writer would go back and, you know, take out a bunch because we ran out of time, I think. So it's cool.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me participate today. It was
Okay.
enlightening for an old guy to learn new things.
So I'll let you know. So the next one is going to be September 7th, Monday, September 7th. So in 1, 2, 3 weeks, because we've got an extra Monday in August. So you're on my email list now. And so I'll send you the advance notice, and then you'll just have to click through and so if Laura, you can send it to me, you have my email, and then I'll send it to Melanie and Tom, that link to those scientists.
Cool, I'll do that.
Great.
Awesome. That would be great.
Okay,
For what I
thanks
write,
for
that would
coming.
be amazing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing.
coming.
All right.
Bye.
Take care,
In a couple
everybody.
weeks.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.